see if that is all working. Yes, it says live on Facebook. Here we are, glorious sister. I know we were just having a very detailed conversation about boobs, like just before we went live. So I think, you know, it's appropriate that we should shimmy our way into this conversation. And I want to say thank you, first of all, my darling. I know that probably right now finding time to hang out with me or anyone is not that easy. We are still you know, in the throes of homeschooling, although I think that's your lifestyle choice now, right? That's the future.
It has been for the past year and a half. We've been homeschooling, well, unschooling. We're learning through life at my house.
Applied learning. I like it.
We'll see. It's everything's open to.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the really beautiful things about what we have gained from a COVID Melbourne and these tough restrictions is it's really clarifying about what matters and what doesn't, and it's helped me see through so much like of what I was putting up with that actually isn't going to come forward with me in the next phase of my life. So yeah.
No, I totally agree with all of that, and I'm loving my children, which I never thought I would be loving having them home, and I'm actually going to be really sad when they go back to school.
Yeah. I wonder if the challenge is the structure, like the institutionalized, like the time you have to be here at this time for this, like this 5 days a week, which even for adults working 5 days a week of anything is hard. Like whether if there was more flexibility or kind of you know, I was reading about models where you could do 2 days of school, 3 days at home or whatever, like having this extended time.
We'll move to, and we're lucky. We jumped out of mainstream school last year and we moved into a Steiner school, and I think there is probably a lot more flexibility with what I could do, and that sounds good to me. A couple of days of school so they can socialize and see their friends, and so I can have a break and tidy my house, and then a couple of days with them home, because we're just learning, like we've completely not that we're not schooling, but we're learning, and we brought in like social justice and all of this incredible stuff that the third level has opened up to me, because I'm like, whoa, there's a whole world outside of what I'm being given. Like I can go and explore this and be sovereign in how I educate my children. So I didn't know that before. I thought I sent them to school because that's what everybody else did, but I get to do it in a way that feels good for me.
I love that you mentioned the third level, because that's what we're here to talk about. So thank you for bringing it back. We just jumped in like we were continuing the conversation. Actually, we weren't. We were talking about breast augmentation and whether we both needed to get a little lift, having breastfed children. That was not what we were talking about. We weren't talking about the ways to raise wild, intuitive little beings. But I love that it is part of this conversation already. And I know we're going to go far and wide. So for those of you who are joining us, Rae and I are just here really to explore what it feels like to be inside the washing machine of the third level, to use Amy Tao's very gorgeous metaphor for that program. Rae is now in term 4, literally weeks away from qualifying. And I know, see, this is the beginning. You're like, a year, it's going on forever. And even if I say this will be over before you know it, by the time you get to this point, every woman is like clinging, don't make me leave. So I'm happy.
Watching the page, I'm like, what else is she bringing out that I can do after this? Where else can I go?
We got more for you. But I think, you know, I think it's so valuable for women who might be considering this path to hear what it's like while you're in process. Because, you know, afterwards, of course, you're like, that was the best thing I ever did. But what was it like going through it? Because this is not a superficial spiritual development program, professional development, personal development. So I guess, you know, let's just talk about what's changed for you as a result of this. I mean, obviously lots of big life things, but what else has been going on at the individual level for you?
And I know it's like so cliche, like I just can't describe it in words, and I will, because I have lots of words, so I'll keep going until I get there. But it's just been, I don't think there's an area of my life that hasn't changed because of this program. And it sounds like so wanky to say that, but it literally is the truth. My communication, I think, settling back into when you know who it is you are, like I am pure unlimited consciousness. Like I am actually, God resides in me and outside of me, and all of this is God. When you know that, and that took me a while to grasp, I fought that concept for a long time, but when you know that, you just can't put up with anything less than what is for you. And that for you is different for everybody, but even in my marriage now, I'm just like, I'm actually going to say the thing because the thing needs to be said. And no, this isn't good enough for me. And this is how I'm going to, once I realized who it was I was, and we are all one, I realized that's who my children were as well. So who was I to push my bullshit beliefs that I've been given onto my children? I've got my second child, she hates school. She hates it. And I literally have overridden her intuition time and time and time and time again. But when you learn about the science of intuition and how it's innate in all of us, it just, I think my parenting has probably been the most personal thing for me that's changed, because I can't raise my children to not have a voice and not know who it is that they are. And then having all these tools and tips and tricks and all of that, the micro method and the soul notes and just the whole program, being able to, because it's all well and good to say, and I follow lots of parenting experts and they're like, do this thing. And it's all well and good, but in my subconscious brain is everything I had ever been given about how to be a mother, how to be a wife, how to raise children, how to do all of the things. So you can't get to that point where you can sculpt something which is for you, all the while you've got all these mean girls talking in the background. So over the course of the third level, really meeting myself and who it is that I was underneath all of the stories. Because you said that to me a few times. I'm like, she says it one more time, I'm gonna punch her in the face, because it was just that's a story. I'm like, no, it's not, it's my life. And it wasn't. It was, you knew better.
Well, I'm glad you feel that, we reached that point, but I really do feel like you did the deep work to be aware that maybe I did have a little bit of insight. But it's, we talk about this a lot. We can't do the work on behalf of someone else, but we can hold the container that allows them to break themselves open. And you really threw yourself up against the sides of that container, willing to, even desperate to break yourself open. That frustration of like, I know she's in there, even though I'm angry that you think that she's in there, like the whole pretzel of things, but you kept going. And that's what I just really adored and admired, and continue to adore and admire, because you made no excuses, even though there were days I know that just picking yourself up off the floor to kind of parent and get on with things was overwhelming, because of what you were, the process. And how easy would it be if we were in the monastery or in the cave, or like being held and comforted while all of that was happening. But you've done it at the coalface, which is what the contemporary mystic is. She's raising the babies, and you haven't just done it for yourself, you've done it for them. And that, what you're touching on to me, is so much of what intuition truly brings to us, is that anti-domestication. So probably, like you were saying before we began, so much of the choices you were making were informed by, this is what we do. This is, we send our children to school. We essentially kind of eliminate that responsibility for what's happening there. Just go to school, come back, we'll muddle our way through until we get to the other end. And so I just want to reflect that I really feel that potency and anti-domestication of yourself as well, because of course you can't do one without the other. That wild woman within you has been really the one who I think broke free to guide you.
And that's beautiful. My husband loves that side of me. He doesn't, but half of that side of me. He said that we had a conversation the other day, and he's like, it's like I was a lion and you weren't a lion. You were something other than a lion, not even a lioness. And now all of a sudden you're a lion, and it's two lions trying to live in this house. And he's a beautiful man, and he's not narcissistic or anything, but I was subservient. So it was always everybody else before me, and then getting to this place now where everywhere in my life. And that question is my question all the time. Who says? Who says that this is, who gave me this idea? And do I want to carry it forwards into my life? 2020 has just been, it's been the year of all of us going inside of ourselves, but 2020 in this program, there was no excuse to not come out of it a different person than what I came in. And that was hard at the start, because I was like, give me the answers. I'm going to.
Nothing changes. Just, I want the answers, but nothing can change.
Tell me what it is. Just do this for me. And I found that really confronting after the first term, because I was like, okay, so I have to do this for myself. Like, this is mine. And you're not invested in the outcome. You are and you aren't. That beautiful paradox of like, I want you all to do well, but it's going to be up to you And I suppose it's that detachment that I brought into my life as well. I was talking the other day about my children. I'm like, it's not really up to me how they turn out. This is their stuff. And being able to detach from everything, because you realize now, like, you know, it is all a dream. All of this stuff goes.
It was the illusion of control. There was never any control. There was the illusion of control, and waking up to that learned detachment is freedom. But we will often associate it with a kind of death, because we think that to love is to want to control and to control an outcome for our partners, for our children, for our communities, for our work. And you know, that idea of suddenly waking up to the truth that you never had the false control that you thought you did is shocking for some. And
amazing.
Through it
after it's shocking, it's amazing. You're like, I don't have this responsibility. It's not mine. It's everyone else carries their own stuff, and God carries all of us. And we just, that's been the most freeing thing for me, I think, to realize, like, it's, why am I so worried about things that, you know, do not matter? And all of the energy that's going into these things that do not matter, but I was told that they should matter. And seeing now my vision of my service and what that is going to look like, I couldn't have had clarity on that, because I was so entrenched in, like, woe is me, and this is all my stuff.
But even that paradigm, you know, what I want for you as you go through the journey is what the intuitive guide wants for her client. And that idea that we are not invested in the outcome, because how could we know better than what God knows is right for that client, but that we will hold that container. You know, Alicia calls it creating space. We create a space in which there is the capacity for them to make that discovery for themselves. Because if someone makes the discovery for you, you know, one of the former students said, you know, we can't steal their aha moments. If you don't have the aha moment, you don't transfigure. You just hear things and you go, oh, okay, sure. And nothing changes, which is why we can have all the self-awareness in the world, but nothing actually changes, because self-awareness is not the same as an energetic paradigm shift. And that's when the aha, like, then you get that embodied bodily experience of change at a cellular level, and then you can, you know, go forward in your life. And so I love hearing that, because that really is what we want. That's what we're training to be able to do. And it takes a lot more courage than saying, I'll fix you, I'll heal you, you know, which is what the old model is. And it's also how we parent, and it's also how we love. And, you know, what if we
see it everywhere? Once you see it, and once you, I don't want to say come out of it, because it's something that I constantly fall back into, and then I have to feel my way through it again. But you just see how deeply entrenched that is. No one wants to put the effort, or not no one, but most of us don't want to put the effort in, because we've just been told probably that the results aren't worth it, or whatever it is. Like, this spirituality is such a, for me, I would have said it 1,000 times, like, I'm not spiritual enough for this. I'm not a spiritual person. I don't understand. I didn't read tarot cards before. I didn't play really with my crystals. I didn't do any of this stuff. But I walked into this program like, I don't know what this is. And then when you actually start to understand what it is hard. And then you see it around everywhere. I'm like, stop giving away your power to that thing. Stop giving it. Well, why are you spending, like, people spend a lot of money on people telling them what it is that they know better for themselves. And that's been really cool for me to be like, oh gosh, all this money I save, I don't need to buy a damn thing. I just need to be silent.
Hey, Mom. Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, I assess your readiness. That's why we interview before you come into the program. But we can equate the amount of time I've spent buying crystals or doing bullshit programs or whatever as spiritual experience. Whereas with someone like you, who's coming in with that empty cup and very few prior programmed expectations, that's my dream, you know, because that's
humiliating to me, this side of it.
Now they're on the other side. You know, I've been asked a few times about things like the Healy device, and I haven't made any public statements, but if I was going to sort of say something like this idea of spiritual retail therapy, which is kind of a statement in itself, you know, you can buy the Healy or you could be the Healy. And that's what we learn to do. You know, that's our work, is to be the Healy. Like, we can, like JPC says, you can outsource your meditation if you want to. But really, like, well, you can buy telomerase, which is what you produce that in heart congruence. Remember, telomerase is the anti-aging chemical that grows the telomere. You can buy it at the health food shop. but it's not actually going to work because it's the feeling state, it's the altering your vibration. So yes, I do think it's really cool if you don't have a history of that spiritual retail therapy, which is what the contemporary spiritual conversation tells us is the highest ideal. Like, did you pay the most money to go on a retreat with the biggest guru, and like, you know, did you buy all the crystals, you know? All of that stuff is causing so much harm because it separates us from, it's like having a priest saying, I'm the conduit to God, you can't get there without me. No, thank you. Did I get a bit ranty there?
No, I like ranty. Ranty is good. I like that. I was like, yes, be the Healy. That's what I'm taking out of that whole rant. Be the Healy.
Yeah, well, that's my public statement. I have been asked so many times, and I really don't want to cause offense because I know there are people, even in my community, who think it's a great idea. And sure, you know, I love measuring. I love the science of our work. I love measuring things, but I also know that ultimately nothing can do the work for us. And it doesn't matter how sophisticated the technology gets. We are the technology. I've been saying lately, our physiology is the technology, and you can't outsource that. There isn't anything that is more perfect than what we've been provided with, you know, right from every aspect of us, the heart, brain to the orgasm, all of it is this divine program within us, or this divine hardware to run the program of our divinity. So how could we improve on that?
Oh, and it's just, and that's probably been one of the greatest things for me as well, is like coming back into my body and realizing how incredible and amazing and how disconnected I had been to this body for so long. Because again, we're told that we're defective and we're broken and we're all of these things. And this program as well has really like connected back into my bleed and just the beauty of that and everything about, I was listening to Bruce Lipton the other day, and he was talking about, you know, healing yourself and all the rest of it. And when you know it, you can't unknow it. Like, yes, I literally have the power to create, to be anything. And that's what I'm excited for going forwards outside of this program. It's like, whoa, what is actually possible for me? What is possible outside of, you know, 4 kids, and what is it that I'm told that I should be doing and I should achieve to actually like, and there's that bit inside of me that's like, I'll prove you wrong. I'll prove you all wrong. I love that side of me, and really integrating all of those parts of me. Like, there is no bad bit of me. Everything can just, with a shift of a perspective, I can embody all of those parts of me. And they're the greatest lessons. Like the bits of me that I would shy away from, like, my arrogance, I can go there really easily. I can very easily go into being very arrogant. I can go into being really judgmental. I can go into all of these things. And instead of shying away from them or, you know, following what we've been told, like that's not the way to be, it's like, what gold have you got for me now? I love it. That fear huntress. It's delicious going into that stuff.
Yes, I agree. I shared yesterday on the idea of anxiety as intuition and my journey with anxiety, which is how I really had to learn to work with it. That, you know, going towards those things that we've judged ourselves for is our freedom. It's Ganesha, you know, the remover of the obstacle is also the one who places the obstacle, and the problem is the solution. And it's such a beautiful thing, and it's humbling as hell, and that's the whole point, right? Get humble, get down on your knees, and just, you know,
get humble some more. Every time I get humble, I'm like, oh, there's lower, I can dig deeper. I really can.
We can get humbler. I love that we share a vision of using our sacred nature and our sacred work as a for social justice and so a social consciousness. And of course, you know, that's very important to me, and that's why we have Ava Cruz Pina and Sharon Holmes invested in the program, and also, you know, really just continuing to unpack, well, for me, my white supremacy, but offering all of my students that. But one of the things I've loved about what you've done already, even before graduating, is creating that conversation, those spaces where you can see how, you know, you can get, like, being spiritual is a radical act if you understand there is only one of us here. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that, because I think you're unapologetic in that way, and I really admire that hugely. Like, this is not about being fluffy and rainbows and bypassing. It is going into the heart of the wound. And whatever you want to say to that, I'd love to hear.
I think that's where my ability to sit in my humility comes in. Like, I'm willing to be like, I got this all wrong. And when I think being a leader for me is being able to, or have gone there first before other people go there. And I think now, even at this point, the third level hasn't even finished, but my eyes are wide with wonderment. And I'm literally seeing all of these places that I didn't even see before, and being able to take, we always think, you know, we have this idea of perfectionism and leadership and Instagram filters and all of this stuff that we have, and we have to get to the end of that place before we could possibly guide someone else through it. But I think what I'm finding now is it resonates so deeply with my community, the fact that I'm happy to say, like, I've gone there for myself. We put together, I did Held, which was a summer, and I've worked with Ava. I did her Sacred Inclusion afterwards, having been introduced it to this program, and we're just finishing up now. And as I started to get this panel together, and I was like, who do I know that could speak at this? And I was like, white, looks exactly the same as me. If I looked in the mirror, this is what I'd see. White. And I was like, okay. And as I first started to put it together, and I sat with God for a while afterwards, but I'm like, it's okay. Like, I'm trying. And I sat with God, and he's like, you're not trying hard enough. Yeah. Like, if that's what you're putting out there to the world, it's just not good enough. And I suppose just holding myself to that standard, because, you know, as above, if I don't, then how can the world ever change? Yeah. And knowing that as small as I am, we can all have such an impact by just being like, oh, cringe. I can't believe I ever did that thing before, and this is what I would have done. And I don't know whether that's answered your question at all, but like, absolutely.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you say, as you say, it's true humility. It's okay that maybe my voice is not the most important voice to hear, and probably it actually isn't. And, you know, maybe, you know, for the world to find its balance, I will need to shut the fuck up. And that's okay, because it can't be any other way. Like, it's whatever is meant to be is meant to be. So it is a really beautiful space to navigate as well, because of course it also requires women like us with the privilege at the center of, you know, the system has put us at the center. You know, obviously there's patriarchy, but we're still very, very privileged even within that we must not be afraid to lead who we can in our communities to that, as you say, to I've gone here, I'm willing to show you how hard it was for me and what I've learned from it, and maybe you'll gain from it. So we take that onus of responsibility off our BIWOC sisters, and we can, you know, do that for our communities, informed of course by the people who are really on the coalface. So, you know, it's a space that I'm constantly navigating. I don't get it right. I don't know, you know, all the time. I commit to that learning, and sitting with God, as you say, and being unafraid to say, maybe I need to be the one who shuts up now, and that's cool. And if that's what is meant to be, there's no loss. So
being open to being schooled, I think for me, I'm like, okay, tell me what it is. Like, I rang a few people when I was putting Held together, and I was like, okay, just give it to me straight. And being able to accept that, and being able to then integrate that into, I mean, I have no idea what it's like to be a woman of color, but I certainly have a greater awareness now, because I've started on this path of this lifelong. It doesn't stop here. And that's what, you know, George Floyd and the murder of George Floyd, and we saw all of this performative anti-racism work coming. And I think when you do work with women who do this work, and so elegantly and effortlessly, it's not effortless, I'm sure it takes a lot out of Eva to do it, but to really work with women that are doing it, and you see how entrenched and ingrained it is. And that's just not the world that I want to live in. So part of the course was to do our ethics and our inclusion statement, and I'm going to be working with Ava in order to craft that. So I'm going to spend money in order to do it, because it's the best investment that we'll ever do. And I've lost my train of thought with that. Can't remember where that one was going. But it's lifelong. I'm never going to stop. It's going to be something that it's not performative. It has to be. Yeah. And I'm at the start of it, and being able to be like, okay, well, I'm at the start of it. Part of what I want to do is I want to host women's circles, and I do it now, but going further into that, and I think about the spaces that I create and the people that I'm drawing in because of my level of comfort with this type of work, and being able to expand that out. And like you're saying, being able to be like, actually, I can't do this thing. I don't have the capacity to hold this thing or to be this thing, and I haven't learned enough. And whilst I'm learning it, it's okay that someone else who has way more understanding about a gazillion things than I do, takes the lead. But the inclusion statement, sorry, that's where I was going. And be able to, when I first started to write that, and I was like, what am I going to say? Because I understand that I am like ridiculously in my white privilege and what I'm going to say here, but to have that humility. And I suppose there was a level of permission, not that you get to give that to us, but you did in your beautiful way of doing it, to be like, I'm just learning. I don't have all the answers, and being able to put that in there was just, I think there was a tutorial that we did, and I said, like, I don't know, I can't put that in there because I love to always have the answers to everything. And you were just like, you just start.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah. And it is, I've read about this idea that for us, like alpha personality types, if we're going to do something, we want to fix the problem. Like if I'm going to tackle racism, I need to solve it. I can't just be part of a discomfort. Yeah. I need to fix this for everybody. Come on. Yeah. And so it's learning to sit with the discomfort in an ongoing way, knowing that we probably will not solve it in our lifetimes, and we probably won't be the ones to solve it when it does get solved anyway. But can I sit here with the discomfort and show up anyway, even if I can't solve it? Because often what we'll do, we check out. If it's too, which is what we've done as white people. So, you know, I think there's a lot of good intentioned white people who check out because it's, fuck, I can't even begin to wrap my head around this. So it's better that I don't try and pretend it's not happening. So, you know, radical acceptance of what is one of, you know, the core spiritual tenets, but that idea of I am not going to pretend this isn't a racist patriarchal world that privileges able-bodied young hot people who are skinny. I'm going to actually accept that this is the way it is. Now what am I going to do about it? And that's the place to act from, not from a, you know, even from a rage place. You know, holy rage is not the same as human rage, because holy rage is really burning away the judgment to just accept that this is my task, this is happening in my lifetime, God has put this in front of me by birthing me into this body. I must use my privilege for those who are not going to get the voice that I get. So it is, yeah, it's a really big responsibility, but it's an uncomfortable one because we cannot fix it. We just have to be present to it. And know that the time will come and make those changes that we can make. So for example, having the BIWalk scholarship for the 3rd level is a really big thing for me, because I know that the majority of my students are white women, and that it can't be just me finding images of, you know, women of all different colors and sticking them on the website. It will take time for the systemic change to occur, and for me to create a genuine culture shift that makes BIWalk feel comfortable. If you're not familiar with that acronym, it's Black, Indigenous, Women of Colour. It's what we use in Australia. I think it's what they use in the US. In the UK, I know there's different language, so apologies if that's not the term that you use. But really, for me, that's like I can't rush at this trying to recruit people who fit the profile of what I need to look like I'm being inclusive. I just have to keep showing up and be as genuine as I can in my attempts to make it clear the reparations we're making, and the, you know, like I invested in Sharon Holmes's consultation to write our anti-racism manifesto and to do an audit of the website and all of our social media spaces, and to say, okay, how is this feel to someone who, you know, what is it that I need to be doing differently? And it's not a quick fix, but it's a commitment that is as much part of me showing up to my devotion every day. Like I can't be in the world right now in this dream. This is what's showing itself, and pretend it's not here, because this is the medicine that for me, like this is the medicine for me. It's not for them, it's for me. Like I'm going to get freer of all this bullshit subconscious programming and conscious programming, and that's, you know, that's the truth, because there's only one of us here.
And I love that. I had that point where when I was writing my my mission statement, it's like, why do I want to do this? And I did like 10,000 drafts. I'm like, selfishly, I want women to understand who it is that they are, to make my life easier. Because it's just, can you imagine living in a world, and for my children as well, like I just want all of the women to know who it is that they actually are, what it is that they're capable of achieving, dropping all of this rubbish that we've been given, just to make my life easier.
Yeah.
I would like a really easy life. I want to go and travel around Australia for 2 years in my caravan. I do, and I want to come back and I want to plant my veggies and have my chickens. And it's really hard when you're constantly looking around like, oh, come on, back yourself, do the thing, get your voice out there. And then for my children as well, like we got to raise some children. I've got 4 girls, so you know, patriarchy and me have I was going to say love-hate. We have a hate-hate relationship. So just to make, because it is all for me. My service is all for me. My service is my medicine, and learning that you can't not, can you really? You can't not be who it is that you are.
No, because it's not congruent. It literally is that, again, you're saying that performativity, which is what we see in so much spirituality and so much racial justice work. And, you know, there is a performativity about looking like you're doing the thing. And, you know, that's why, you know, when I talk about, for example, our devotion, like what you do when no one's looking is what matters.
I like that. The first half of this program, I was like, take a photo of me like doing my moon bath or something, and then I'd run inside straight afterwards and be like, it's really cold out there. Whereas now I do the moon bath and it's cold and I'm out there, and it's just moving into that embodiment stage of it sells more when you do this stuff. And I got there in my business for a while. I'm like, if I say this thing, more people like my page. And if I take a really great photo of something that I'm just, you know, wafting around for a second before putting it down. But this program is, you just don't, that doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it in here. Like, you have to become it and be it. And that was a hard pill to swallow for a while. I was like, oh my gosh, Rae, you are really being like, you're taking the photo. It's all just a photo op moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty humble statement, my darling. That's pretty humble, but I get it. Like, you know, and there's so many moments for me, darling, where, you know, I shared something about this in my newsletter recently, that idea, I forget that I'm leading a revolution, and like that, I just want everyone to get it so I can go and chill out on a beach somewhere, because that'd be so much eeasier. But whilst I look around and I see a world where that disempowerment through that continual externalization of ourselves as what we truly are, I can't rest, and that agitation keeps me moving in that direction within me and outside of me, because, you know, we have to call bullshit on ourselves all of the time. But yeah, there's such a temptation. Imagine if I did energy forecasts. Imagine, like, oh my
fortune. I think about it.
Billions of followers. I could be all those people.
Yes.
And you know, some days I'm like, why did I choose to do? And I didn't choose, of course. It's what God tasked me with. So it's not like it's my fucking choice. But that idea that being revolutionary is being radical, which is never the center, always the margin. You are never going to be the popular voice, but eventually, you know, however long it takes, one day they'll go, yeah, you know, when everyone's doing it, they'll go, yeah. I was into that before everyone else was. But the truth is, we're ahead of our time in terms of, you know, marrying all of the aspects of spirituality in the world, which is what the Priestess is. Spirituality as service, not as what can I get, you know, which is what the law of attraction tries to tell us. And then this idea of non-dualism. And none of these ideas are easy, so they're unpopular. But when you are radical and revolutionary, it isn't, as you say, you can't accept the bullshit. And that's, you know, we use the word congruence. That's our shorthand for that. Like, are you a match between what you're saying and what you're doing? And it gets uncomfortable when you live from that place to be a mismatch. You actually have to bullshit yourself so hard that you probably have to be drunk all the time or whatever, you know. You have to find some way to numb out. And I don't want it any other way. Yeah. No,
and it's I can't wait to get to that level of it for myself. I'm sitting again just in this beautiful transitional period, and you know, it's COVID. I've got 4 kids at home, but to be at that point where you only accept that thing, because still now I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll just go along with your story about the crystals or the something, because it's not needing that validation and not wanting to be disliked. And I think that's probably moving into my next lesson now, is like, when you speak your truth, a lot of people don't like it because they're just not ready for it.
Yeah.
That's not my job.
Yeah. There's something I want to touch on there, though, because I think it'll save you a lot of energy, because, you know, with the postgrad group right now, we're reading a text called Resurrecting Jesus by an American teacher called Adyashanti. And he speaks about the life of Jesus and the disciples, and really this idea of conserving your precious energy by not casting pearls before swine. Now, that sounds like a very judgmental statement, but what he's really talking about is you can only take people as far as they're ready to go. And so one of the things that's really helped with my frustration around why isn't everybody getting on board with this revolution is to just be absolutely accepting that it isn't my job to serve everybody. And if the words that I'm speaking and the energy I'm bringing doesn't resonate, then there is no point me trying to cast those pearls before them, because they cannot be heard, seen, or felt. Who I'm meant to serve will be able to hear what I have to say, and then they will see the consciousness of their communities. But it can be very, this feeling of urgency of like, why can you not see what is so clear to me? It's perfectly okay for everybody to be where they are. As Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home, and it's not necessary for us to serve everybody. And I think I just want to share that now with you, my darling, because you are on the precipice of great leadership, and I've gone through a lot of struggle myself, wanting everybody to be ready for something that they're not, and that's okay, because every intake of the third level, those women who are ready, whether they know it or not, do keep showing up, because I'm calling them in at a higher level than my voice. The energetic call is what draws them in. But don't be afraid to be unpopular, because that to me means you're doing something right.
And I suppose it's that level of congruence as well. We've been doing our practice sessions before we move into our follow-up and our case studies, and it's been a couple of times that I've sat with my sisters doing this stuff, and it was like, yeah, I really just don't like people who are like, they're not authentic. It really rubs me up the wrong way. And I was like, oh, I call him what I am. It's because like, it's literally God's like, hey, here's this person who's not living her truth, because I haven't been, and I've been in that spiritual closet, and I'm just starting to move my way out of it now. But I'm such a thinker that I'm like, I need to know how it makes sense before I can feel how it makes sense. But yeah, it's all of these little like, these things that drop in is like, yeah, of course that's what I'm calling in, because that's what I truly believe about myself right now. And how can I shift what in me is projecting out into this world, and that I'm then calling in. But on your calling in, that meditation that you do, that client attraction meditation, best thing ever.
That's on Insight Timer, everyone, if you want it. They did rename it. I don't know why. I think it's called Attracting the Right People. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they have a thing about not having anything to do with business on there. I'm not sure. But it is a beautiful meditation. And it doesn't matter if you're calling in clients or it doesn't matter. Whatever you're calling in, what you're doing is you're making yourself open to what God wants for you, and turning on your light so that it can find you, whatever it is. Because if you dull your light, as Jesus said, if you're not shining, you're darkness. And that's so hard for us to accept, right? Our gloriousness is the hardest thing to accept, especially when I say leadership is humility. You're like, whoa, am I accepting my gloriousness or my humility? And I'm like, yes, the same. And that is, this is the paradox of our unfolding journey. But I've watched you dance with this so beautifully, my darling, and I'm so excited to see what you create. And I have no doubt of the capacity you have. You have been charged with a very big task, and I think the chooks are going to have to wait a while, because I think you've got work to do, and you probably don't need anything else to keep alive. I certainly don't.
In the background there, they're cheaping away at me. But yeah, no, I'm so thankful for this program and for everything that it's just that beautiful blend. I needed the science. I couldn't have done this with the woo-woo. It just wouldn't have worked for me. It's not how I work. I needed that. And it's just pure evidence. When it's put in front of you on a plate, it's undeniable. You can't deny that this stuff is the truth. And then when you start, breaking down all of those, my ego has a field day with this stuff. Each new thing that's come in, and I don't want to believe that thing. I don't want, because I know it's so true that I don't want to believe that thing. And the program just has held me so beautifully through that, and just the way that it's built has been lovely. It's been such an incredible experience. And I know when I used to hear people like, I'm a different person, there's before the third level and after. I think it was midlife that said that, okay, there was pre-third level and then there was midlife after third level. And I'm like, that just sounds so ridiculous. Like, it's just it actually has, it's been the truth. It's everything about it. The teacher mentors, like, just fallen in love with each and every one of them, and just the diversity that's there as well in their teaching styles. And it's been glorious. Bali would have been super awesome.
It may still happen. One day we'll be there together. We just have to hold that vision, baby. We just don't know which one day. It'll be 20-something.
That was one of the
20-something will be in Bali.
I was like, what, like no kids for 10 days or however long it was. Can't wait for that.
Oh, baby, it will happen. But, you know, the world has forced us to up level, and it's been a beautiful evolution for the program. It's, you know, it was shockingly huge to do it, but we did it. And you and your entire sisterhood just jumped on with me and said yes and came on the ride. And, you know, for me, that was just you cannot understand how important that was for me and how huge that was, just holding me. You know, you think I'm holding you, but you guys were holding me, you women. And it was just such a, you know, what we've done as a group, your group, what you've done for me, but what you've done for the Institute and what we've done together is unlike anything that I've experienced, because we went into this not knowing what was coming, and yet we had the courage to stay the course. And, you know, we really moved from innocence to experience without realizing what was going to happen in that time frame. And I just think, yeah, I think your group will just be precious treasures to me forever, because we really did survive something so epic, and then you rolled with everything I needed to ask you to do.
Happy to have been the guinea pig, because whoever comes up next, like the program now is like next level. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Even your baby sisters now are inheriting the benefits. In the next group, we've even, you know, refined the delivery even more, and it's going to be even more potent and easy to try and do this all online. But I'm so grateful to you and to your sisters, because you really did give me the faith that, okay, it isn't about going to Bali. As attractive as that is, the work works. And I think there was a part of me that always thought, well, maybe it is just about people wanting to hang out. I'm like, you could just go to Bali for 7 days. You don't have to come and do a year-long beer detox.
But it was all part of study. I was like, it's part of my study.
Yeah, I have to go. I can justify it. It is still part. We will get there one day. But for now, my darling, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you so much for your precious time. We could talk forever, and we probably should. Maybe we should get our own podcast, and we'll just a lot.
Do you have a podcast?
Hmm?
Do you not have a podcast yet, the Institute? Oh, wow, goodness. That's ridiculous. That would be amazing, because I'm a busy person. That would be awesome to be able to... That was my earphones.
I did get that. It wasn't. I'm just going to stick my fingers in my ears.
All right. I like that. All right.
Podcast, baby. We'll make it happen.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And for anyone who is watching this and has been thinking about the third level, like I can't even describe. And it's for everyone. I love just the diversity of all of the people who are in here in all of the ways that we're going to be of service to the world in our different ways. So it just is, it's life-changing. It's amazing. You're amazing. And thank you for having me here.
It is my privilege to serve you now and always, darling. And I hope we get to hang out together a lot more after the third level ends.
I'm looking at, I've got all my list of courses that I'm doing next. I'm like, when does this one start? My poor husband's going to lose me for another few years, but yeah.
They're gaining so much out of that, you know. It's just,
absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Thank you. I didn't check comments or anything, so I don't know if anyone said anything, but we've had the best time. So thank you. And if there's any questions, I'll come and answer them.
Thank you.
Love you, gorgeous woman. Bye.